Hello and welcome to this week's Marketing Mix. Lead magnets. Do you love them or do you hate them? I love them because they help me identify the right people that I want on my email list. But how do you figure out what's the right lead magnet for you? Well, I'm really pleased to be joined today by my guest expert, Rene Power, who is going to talk to us about all things lead magnets. But before we kick off, I'm just going to ask Rene to introduce himself.
Hi there, thanks for having me today. So I'm a marketing consultant. I've been working in my own businesses for the last 9 years. Before that, had quite a successful agency career lasting about 15 years across a number of B2B agencies in Manchester. And before that, worked in global pharmaceuticals and manufacturing. So believe it or not, I've been at it for about 29 years. So yeah, B2B is my sector, and lead magnets and content are at the real heart of what I do for clients.
Brilliant, and that's why you're here today. So let's kick off with, why should small businesses be using lead magnets? Because I've alluded to something that it helps me to do, but like, what is the reason that they should use a lead magnet?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're obviously a really, really big part of the marketing mix, particularly now where the lion's share of it has gone digital. So the ability to reach customers and prospects that you wouldn't normally be able to reach, 10, 20, 30 years ago because of all the advances in technology. But certainly in the spaces where I work, where it can take an awful lot of time to switch somebody from using a competitor's product or service to using yours. Lead magnets give you the opportunity to give a little bit of insight, some help, some advice, to position some expertise, and also to engender trust, which I think is really important if you're trying to persuade people to move from a supplier or a partner that they're kind of okay with to potentially making a change, which is against human nature, and looking to try and partner with somebody else. So it hits a number of those buttons for me, and also things like getting past gatekeepers, which is proving to be an absolute nightmare in modern B2B marketing. So dangling something of interest in exchange for a little bit of contact information, is the smart play these days, I think.
And I guess that's the thing is that even if you're a small business, you might be working exclusively with bigger businesses, and realistically identifying those decision makers is going to be hard unless they sort of step forward and say that they are the person that makes the call on stuff. So the lead magnet is perfect for that, right?
Yeah, and as we'll get into, I'm sure, lots of different ways to do that. But you're absolutely right. Lead magnets sort of tap into that psychological trait of reciprocity. I can never say that word. That idea you do something and you kind of get something back. So people are going to be far more open-minded about someone if they have received some value upfront in advance. So the idea of lead magnets is normally, like I said, offering some kind of advice or stepped advice or a checklist or something that's going to help people make decisions and make choices that they need to make.
So you've decided to create a lead magnet. How do you decide what to include in yours, and how long should it take?
I think there's a few key things you need to think about, and also, for my sins, I'm a recent convert to all things BNI, which is Business Networking International. One of the big things that they espouse in their referral groups, which is a cornerstone of marketing as well, is having a target customer and niching down as far as you can. Now, I know you're very well niched, Minal, because you work in the email marketing space for small businesses and particularly startups and service businesses. So you're kind of double niched in the same way I am. I work normally with B2B, manufacturing, engineering, industrial businesses, but also service businesses. But I work in content marketing, so I do a lot of work around lead magnets, obviously the email nurture and stuff we put around that. and really effective customer-centric websites. So when you boil all that down, when it comes to kind of good marketing and good lead magnets, we really need to have an idea of who it is we want to try and help or serve, what problem we think we're addressing, what transformation we bring when we work with customers and prospects, and give them a hint at some kind of solution. You don't have to give them the whole solution, but you need to give them enough. Remember, leading into that kind of psychology of giver's gain, that we give people enough that makes them think, okay, there's something in this. I should probably talk to these guys. They sound like they know what they're talking about.
So is there one type of format that works better than others? Because you mentioned cheat sheets and tips.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there are so many types of lead magnets. Or you see a lot of promotion at the minute around downloadable guides. So you can use tools like Canva to create nice branded PDFs that answer frequently asked questions that customers might have. For a lot of my manufacturing clients, I do these things called buyer's guides, where we will literally come up with a title that might say, choosing your next aluminium extrusion provider or supplier. I'm working on one at the minute for myself, how to choose a marketing consultant. And one of the things I do is I will take doesn't have to be 10, it can be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or however many things it is that company says are the things that we do really well. The accreditations we have, the investment we put into our staff, the resources we have, all the good things about your company, what you do and how you do it, and actually present that as best practice. So by putting out a buyer's guide that helps people to choose a new supply partner for a particular product or service, what you're actually doing is you're changing the language of how you market from being very subjective, which is how we write adverts and talking about us and how great we are, and don't just listen to us, listen to our customers and they'll tell you how great we are as well, and turning that into more objective language about this is what good looks like. And yet downloads, videos, webinars, checklists, whatever we want to create, they're going to be branded, but the composition of the content that works best in lead magnets for me is when you strip it back and make it as objective as possible. So when people are reading it, they're kind of nodding along, or they're thinking, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I recommend these to every type of business, every small business. If you're a mortgage provider or an accountant, every type of business should have a how to choose a insert professional service and make it your own. Make it so that you can talk about all the things that are unique to you and turn them into best practice. So your ideal customers will be thinking, hey, you know what? We want a marketing consultant that's worked in manufacturing for years and has worked internationally and is CIM qualified and is doing his, a chartered marketer and his continual professional development and da. So I present those things as things that you should look for in a marketing consultant. And lo and behold, I'll get inquiries off the back of that because that's what they realize they want. That's what they realize they need. So I think whether it's long form downloads, ebooks, the kind of fill in a form and get access to a webinar or watch something live or a 5-day challenge or whatever it is that you're using to hook people in and get them engaged with what you're doing. It doesn't matter whether it's long form, short form, written, video, whatever. The key thing is to build it around that customer, known problems and transformation. And then, the format kind of takes care of itself, but you want to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to access.
I like that idea, and you've given me an idea for a lead magnet for me.
Yeah.
So you've got your idea. What do you need to do to make it, to promote it and distribute it? How do we get it to the people that will want it?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is you obviously create the piece of content. The lead magnet is a piece of content, right? So like most marketing consultants trying to bootstrap, I'm a big fan of Canva. So for small businesses and your audience, if you're not using Canva, it's like £10 a month, and it does crazy stuff, as I'm sure you're aware, right from your bog standard social media graphics right through to putting PowerPoint decks, video, Instagram stories, reels, all kinds of stuff. It really is a pretty incredible package for the price that they charge. So create your, the lead magnet itself. Then what you need is a really, really good focused landing page on your website, ideally, where people can go and access it. And on that page, you lead on who it's for, again, the problem, the challenges, and what they're going to find inside, because you've got to convince them to part with their email address and any other data that you want. I always recommend on a first lead magnet that you ask for as little as possible. So if you can get an email address and then you can put them into a nurture sequence, you can then start to generate a bit more data from them. So go heavy on the problems, the transformation, and the benefit on that landing page, and make it really easy to access. And that includes the form. So I do say just get asked for a name and an email address. You don't really need to ask for the company because it'll probably be in the email address. You don't really need a phone number at this stage because you're not going to be calling people up trying to sell them something straight away, because we're going to go about that in a slightly different way. You also need some kind of automated email campaign to run people through. So you want to be able to deliver the thing. Sometimes if your website's a WordPress site, you can configure it. Once they've hit the button, it'll open the PDF or send them to the page with the video on. And you can have a hidden page so that it sends them to that so they can find it and watch a video, or find it on a hidden YouTube channel or a Vimeo channel, whatever you use. But you want to deliver it there online, but also send them the email and the email says, thank you very much for visiting our website and downloading or registering to watch, or whatever it is. Give them some information in the email. But you'll want to set up an automated campaign, and this is really getting into your sweet spot, I think, isn't it? Where we're going to map this thing out and say, right, the first email that they get instantly is the acknowledgement of the fact that they've registered their interest. If we're delivering something, deliver it straight away. If it's a 5-day challenge, there's processes, established ways of going about that, making sure we get people into the Facebook group, and then rules on how to join and introduce themselves and join the right chats and all of this sort of thing. So depending on what the lead magnet is, that email sequence might be a little bit different, but you're going to be doing something specific there. So as people are filling in the form and you're getting the email, you're getting the information from your website, you've got to think about how to get that into somewhere you can use it. So with software like Zapier, you can actually send data from one software to another, or you can do it manually. If you're not working in the realm of thousands of people, you can easily manage this manually and add them to an email list in MailChimp or whatever your chosen email platform is. And then every time you add somebody to that list, they're going to get the email straight away. You probably need some social media graphics like those you've used to promote this session that, again, support the promotion of the lead magnet. You might want to bring some third parties in. So think about who else who can support you in getting this further and wider. Obviously, one of the great advantages of doing events like this and having guest speakers and things is that you can tap into multiple audiences and in theory get more eyes on the product. So pro tip, this is a form of lead magnet happening right here, right now. If you haven't figured that out already, guys. And that can really help amplify the reach, particularly if it's a time sensitive thing like a 5-day challenge that you're going to run in a Facebook group a week on Monday. You've got to get the numbers, you've got to get the reach. So using third parties and colleagues and things like that can be good. And have a compelling upsell in mind. So what happens when they've had that first stage lead magnet? Is there, can you move them to a free product, a service trial, some kind of callback or discovery call, or a paid product or service if you're in the courses game? or the paid content game, then you can move them along to something. So, some of the nurture sequences that work quite well, if you're running, say, simple checklists, plan an event, plan a wedding, things to think about when you're, looking to remortgage, whatever the professional service is, a short, 2-page PDF, quite disposable, email address. What are you going to do to follow that up? You might then bring them to a live or a pre-recorded 30-minute session online where they can come along and, you go into it a little bit deeper, give people the opportunity to answer questions, and then maybe you're positioning, a low ticket price offer off the back of that. So they're either buying a short course or a bit of content or something like that. So think about the process of moving people from, the first lead magnet you're creating into a bit of a journey to working with you, because it might not simply go free download 1997 product. There might be some steps in between to move people to where you want to get them to. You're not going to get people on your signature product if that's the sort of business that you're in, from a small disposable lead magnet. So we need to think that through, what that whole process looks like, and giving people opportunities to upgrade, downgrade throughout that process. So just to recap those, if it helps: brilliant, a landing page, simple contact form, some kind of email acknowledgement and a little email nurture, the social media graphics, and the upsell.
And coming back to you mentioned trust earlier. This nurture really is starting to build that trust, because unless you're selling something, like if you're a service-based business that is selling, I don't know, hair, nails, that kind of stuff, people will tend to buy quite quickly. But if you're consultants like us, that sales cycle is a bit longer, so people take a little bit longer to decide whether they want to work with you or not. And that decision's made on really whether they connect with you or not. And, having that nurture sequence in place helps you to build that relationship.
Yeah, and you want to bring in some social proof, regardless of whether you're business to consumer or business to business, as I am. The social proof's quite important. So what I would say, one of the things to really consider is, before you go live with a lead magnet, share it with some people and get some feedback, and if possible, get some testimonials. Like, in kind of book publishing, they will, in order to get the forewords, written by other authors who are probably 2 steps further along, you've got to send that draft out 6 months before publication. So it's not surprise when you get a fantastic new, marketing textbook or whatever, and it's got 5 pages of testimonials in it. It's because it went out and they got the testimonials for it before they went live with it to everybody else. So if you want some social proof on your landing page, within the lead magnet itself, and in your social media content and your emails and your advertising around that, make sure you include that in within the process as well.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And talking about tips, so we've talked about making this lead magnet, but what tips do you have to make it impactful and actually something that people want?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the first one is make it easy to access. So the sign-up process has got to be really simple. Do put a disclaimer on the form, though, so that you, under GDPR and things like that, you've got legitimate interest to email people once they've registered an interest in something. Normally, again, in the B2B space, it's a lot easier to get away with that, because the clause around legitimate interest, if I get a HR manager downloading something from my website that's going to help them in their job, I can justifiably email them back about that and potentially put them on a newsletter list if I've said on the form, by completing this form and downloading this information, you'll be added to our monthly newsletter, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So in business, that's fine, and it kind of works okay. It's not has there been many cases of it being challenged. In the B2C space, which is what GDPR was all about, protecting us from those unscrupulous, insurance and mobile phone companies and the like, as consumers, the rules are a little bit stricter. So if you are working directly to customers, at home, spending their own money on your products and services, really make sure you get that right. You've got to be really careful about if people are giving you a mobile number, are you going to actually, use SMS and WhatsApp campaigns, before checking that it's okay to do that kind of thing. So we've got to just be a little bit careful around that. I'd make sure that the domain or the URL for the landing page is really simple. So if you're going to have it at your website, like renepower.co.uk/buyer's guide or /webinar, whatever it is, keep it as simple as possible, because if you're going to use that link on graphics and in promotion, you want to make it as easy as possible for people to use, not one of these long 56 character things that's got all the keywords stuffed into it. It's going to be a page that's sitting on your website. Again, like we said, make sure it's clearly propositioned, so it's including who it's for right up in the titles and the headlines and the positioning, because that's going to help Google search and things like that, so people are going to find the page on your website. Social proof we talked about, and then really one of the big things for making impactful lead magnets is how you use the content in the lead magnet to actually promote it as well. So I'm a big fan of AI tools. I don't use the copy that tools like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini generate, but they're great for give me 10 ideas, give me 10 titles for a webinar, give me the 5 most important things mortgage and IFAs are worried about with the election looming. They can be pretty good at that kind of thing, and it can give you a good starter for 10. So that's going to help you create hooks for all the social media and supporting content and stuff like that. Obviously, it goes without saying, if it's some kind of document, loads of white space, big headings, nice pictures, make sure there's a logo on the front, but keep everything about you at the back, at the end of the document, so they've got all the great value. And then at the end, you can say, we help, if you want to go deeper with this, we help people do X, Y, Z, and we do it like this, and you can find out more by getting in touch and, all that good stuff. So make it all about the content, but make it really easy to skim, really easy to read, have takeaways in boxes on all the pages and all that sort of thing. And if it's a presentation or a video, a pre-recorded or a live video, again, build the presentation so you're doing that classic 3-step approach of telling them what you're going to tell them it, and then tell them what you told them. So you're tripling down on the messaging and all that good stuff.
So if you decide that you're going to use a video, is there an optimum length that it should be?
I would, I mean, it depends really what the industry is and where it falls, and the capacity for your target customer to immerse themselves in that. So in B2B, we could probably get away with 30 to 60 minutes if we're talking quite industrial, technical, scientific stuff to specifiers and decision makers. As you alluded to, if you've got hair and makeup artists, or health products or personal trainers, or that are more geared towards consumer marketing, probably needs to be a bit more bite size. So it might be 10 or 15 minutes, but it's got to be probably long enough to justify getting contact information. So I think if you're going to say to people, on this webinar, on this live call, in this challenge, we're going to be tackling this problem and challenge, and we're going to take you through our 4-step process, and you break it down, it's going to need a bit of time, right? So I would say always specify up front how long it's going to take to read something, how long it's going to take to watch something, how much time's involved, because people will make decisions based on that. I'm a sucker for whenever Tony Robbins comes around with one of his 3-day things, but it's always on a terrible time of day because he's in California. He always says it's 3 hours, and it's always more like 5 or 6. So you end up in the office till 10 o'clock at night or something, having sat on Zoom for 5 hours with everybody, clapping their hands and all the rest of it. It's great stuff. But you got to manage expectations, I think.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you're transparent about what's included and the sort of time commitment, then yeah, it's what you feel is right and appropriate for your for your client type. But what I would say is I quite like doing something that's fairly short and disposable as a step 1, move to video maybe, or a webinar or something at step 2, because once you've got people investing 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, then there's a bit more intent there. Yeah, you've got to earn the trust from the other, more disposable, bits of content. So, I would personally go that way, around.
Cool. And we've talked a lot about what you should be doing. Can you take us through some of the pitfalls that people should avoid?
Yeah. I think the flip side of some of the things we've talked about. So, arduous sign-up processes. So we want, full name, full address, inside leg measurements, phone numbers, all of that sort of stuff. People are not going to fill those forms in, right?
Yeah.
Again, the URLs that don't align with everything else, if it feels in any way disingenuous or doesn't quite align with social media posts or emails, people will get a bit jittery about filling forms and things in. Never ever use words like anyone or everyone. Let's target, if it's B2B, let's go after a job title. If it's B2C, even better, we can talk directly to hairdressers, personal trainers, young mums, new mums, whatever you're into, make it specific as you can. Focus on single problems, so what in the past where I've tried to build things for myself, and I've tried to capture everything I do as a marketing consultant for businesses, it's too big. And there isn't really necessarily a problem to address there, but as you've rightly identified in your business, probably through probably quite a painful and long-term process. Emails where I'm at. Lots of other things you could do, I'm sure, and but that's where you've settled. So lots and lots of great things you can do there. There's all kinds of problems and challenges all over the email marketing thing, isn't there? Right from what do we put in the subject heading, getting it delivered, getting through all the filters and the spam filters, and getting it opened and getting things clicked and yada yada yada. So there's loads of cool stuff there. So be as specific as you can, I think, and don't just focus on broad improving outcomes in a particular area, but go a lot more deeper in terms of what you're trying to help people achieve. And yeah, just make it seamless and relatively quick experience. So obviously the pitfall of that is it's not seamless and it's not quick and it's difficult and there's loads of clicks, and now I'm here and I've got to do that and I've got to do this and I've got to go and verify my email, or I've got to open an account to access this thing, and whereas it shouldn't be that difficult. And then I guess the final things for me are really work on moving from a subjective talking about yourself and why you're brilliant place to changing that to being much more objective and writing like it's best practice. So obviously not being spammy, not being too promotional, and not selling too hard too soon.
Yeah, the selling too hard too soon I think it's a bit of a problem in B2B. And
remember, whilst it's a lead magnet, just because somebody's come to your website and downloaded something of yours, it doesn't mean they've got $5,000 to spend right now.
No, and it's not never, is it? It's not. It might just be not right now, but it's not it's going to be a never. So, and it is about building those relationships. Once you've got that email address, you need to keep sending things of value that helps people understand that actually you are the person that they want to work with. Amazing. Well, thank you. I've been using lead magnets ever since I started my business, but I've learned quite a bit today, and I never thought about asking AI to give me the problems of people.
Honestly, try it. It'll change your life.
I'm going to do that. I am just going to pop into the chat a link to Rene's scorecard. I'm guessing this is going to score people's content.
Yeah, so what I've done is there's a really great tool, and actually it is a form, it's another form of a lead magnet. There's a chap called Daniel Priestley who's written a load of really great books, over the years, Key Person of Influence and others, but he's created a software called Score App. And what you can do with it is you can create scorecards, and they do exactly what it says on the tin. You get people to answer a bunch of questions, and it can give them a score. So it really taps into that, human desire for kind of acknowledgement, recognition. What's my score? So I've been playing with those quite a bit. So I've got an industrial manufacturing one that speaks to those sorts of clients. And in the hour before today's session, I cloned it and set up a more broader B2B content marketing services one. So this speaks to anybody. So even if you're not B2B, do have a look at it. If you want to have a go on it, it's basically 11 questions. You answer yes or no, and then after a couple of minutes, you get some kind of score on the screen, and you'll probably get an email from me. And if it's something you want to talk through the score, if it really shocks you in a good way or a bad way, and you kind of want to talk through it, more than happy to do that. So it's a form of lead magnet in its own right. Gives you something quick and easy based on your own interaction with it, but it will give you a good steer on how effective your own content marketing activities are. And there are questions in there specifically related to lead magnets and things as well.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today. Go and check out the scorecard. I'm going to take, or the marketing mix is going to take a break for the summer, but I will be back in September with my first guest, Matt from Rocket, and Matt is going to talk to us about how they have been using email marketing as part of their marketing mix and what it's done for them. And I'll let you know that he told me that in the first week of putting up his sign-up form, they signed up 100 email addresses. So, and that's organic. They didn't pay for anything. So he's going to let us into the secrets of what he's doing. And it's a really great product. It's a really great company. So watch out for details of that. But in the meantime, have a great summer. And thank you so much again, Rene, for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.